Hi, welcome to Dr. Mark's Music Notes. I'm Dr. Mark Runkles, and today we're going to learn about the history of Western classical music. A lot of students wonder why they have to study music history, and I want to take a moment to address that here. Music history is the study of the historical background behind the music. It includes a composer or musician's biographical information, culture, philosophy, and performance practice. As performers, there are two main reasons we study music history. One is that this background knowledge may influence our interpretation of a piece. We're looking for an edge that might make our performance better. Maybe an insight gained through the study of music history will even help us win an audition or competition. Two is that passing along an interesting nugget of information before a performance may help us better connect with our audience. We reach a point where it's no longer good enough to walk out and perform. To grow our audience, we need to form connections with individuals. Popular music songs can create an instant connection through lyrics. Instrumental musicians don't have that advantage, and classical music can be difficult to comprehend and enjoy without some background information. The history of Western classical music is divided into 6 eras, which are the medieval era from about 600 to 1450, Common Era, the Renaissance era from about 1450 to 1600, the Baroque era from about 1600 to 1750, the Classical era from about 1750 to 1800, the Romantic era from about 1800 to 1900, and the Modern era from about 1900 to present. Please keep in mind that all of these dates are approximate. Composers didn't flip a switch in, say, 1800 and decide to write Romantic music. Changes in music were driven by changes in philosophy. I'll highlight important developments and composers for each era. Music from the medieval era was based around the Catholic Church and is mostly vocal and religious, as Catholic monks were the ones developing music notation. Music had previously been passed along orally, so these were the first attempts at music notation or writing down the sounds that they heard. Monks were the only group who had time to devote to the development of Western music, as most people in Europe at this point were just trying to survive day to day. The early music they were notating is called Gregorian chant or plain chant. Medieval music was modal. The major and minor tonalities we're familiar with today didn't exist yet. The monks were trying to recreate the music of the Greek Empire, and the names of the modes came from areas in Greece that were thought to be associated with that mode. Music of the medieval era gradually shifted from monophony, which is one unaccompanied melodic line, to polyphony, which combines 2 or more individual melodic lines. Harmonies at this point were based on perfect octaves, fourths, and fifths, which were thought to be consonant intervals. 3 important composers of the medieval era were Léonin, Perotin, and Guillaume de Machaut. Changes in music do not occur in a vacuum. Music develops as part of an era's philosophical and cultural movement. So I've picked a piece of artwork representative of each era. For the medieval era, I've selected King David Plays the Harp by an anonymous artist. The Renaissance era was from about 1450 to 1600, and its 2 main textures were imitative counterpoint and homophony. Composers began using thirds and sixths in harmonies. More voices, at least 4 and sometimes more, were added. Composers began the practice of text painting or composing the music to fit the meaning of the text. The advent of music printing made music more widely available to the general public. Four of the Renaissance era's important composers were Josquin des Prez, Johannes Ockeghem, Orlando di Lasso, and Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. For the Renaissance era, I selected possibly the most famous painting of all time, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. The Baroque era, from about 1600 to 1750, is where we reach more familiar music and fully make the switch to our current major and minor tonalities. Triadic harmonies, and the bass voices or instruments driving those harmonies. Imitative counterpoint was still important during the Baroque era, as evidenced in the existence of numerous fugues appearing in all genres. However, we begin to move away from contrapuntal textures toward what is called monody, which is a single primary melodic line with accompaniment. Opera was invented during this time as an attempt to recreate Greek tragedies. We see the beginnings of several other important genres such as oratorio, sonata, and concerto. Several important composers of the Baroque era included Claudio Monteverdi, Jean-Baptiste Lully, George Frederick Handel, Antonio Vivaldi, and Johann Sebastian Bach. For the Baroque era, I've selected Rembrandt's The Night Watch.